here we are, end of the year. Hard to believe where we've gotten, both positively and negatively, as we kickstart closer to NRE 10. But I want to end this year with a proof of concept show I have in mind. Nothing solidified yet, but I definitely was thinking about this show for a little bit now. And I even had come up with some logo concepts. Yes, I'll admit it's AI generated. You know my stance on AI. I would never use it. If this becomes a full thing, then I will definitely commission an artist to make me an official logo. This is just temporary. But, yeah. This is a show called Between the Panels, which is basically me cutting out the NRC reviews, because it's hard to believe it's been over a year since I last did an episode of NRC reviews. And as NRE Universe begins to develop more and process and projects are made, I think it should be best to come up with his own standalone concept to go ahead and see how things go. But right now, we're not talking about any comic book reviews. We're not talking about any of that. But what we are talking about are comic book hauls. So during the last 2 weeks of the year, I went ahead and bought a bunch of comics. And on Christmas, I had gotten a $150 gift card. And I ended up buying a big book that is now considered out of print at the store I was at. Shout out to Third Eye Comics. This video was not sponsored by them, but they are amazing. If you're in Maryland, go check them out. But, yeah. It's been a wild ride these past 10 years, and I'm looking forward to seeing what I can bring for 2025. But let's get into all the collected haul I got, and the big book I got that is considered out of print by Third Eye. So, I have a bunch of stacks. It's going to be a long video, no doubt. But let's kick things off. Justice League Unlimited #1. Now, this was the series I was waiting for when All In was announced. Like, I have been enjoying the All In books, been reading as much as I can on my digital phone and all that, because if I bought every single physical copy, I would go crazy. And I did do that once upon a time with the X-Men books during the Krakoan era. I have almost every single issue, not all of them, because I kind of went crazy, because I kind of went bankrupt a little bit. And decided probably for the best to just stop right here when the Fall of X started, especially since I didn't want Krakoa to end. And then it ended. Sue me. But yeah, Justice League Unlimited #1. This was one of the books I was looking forward to. It was written by Mark Waid, drawn by Dan Mora, with beautiful colors. I tried to pronounce their name, I failed. This is basically focusing on the aftermath of the DC All-In special that takes place following the events of Absolute Power, and the shenanigans that happen with that with Amanda Waller and her quest to destroy the world, essentially, by making superheroes look horrible. But, yeah, it was certainly a ride with Absolute Power. I enjoyed it. It was 4 issues, and yet it packed so much chaos. I honestly am surprised it lasted only 4 issues with a bunch of tie-ins. I honestly expected it was going to be a 6-issue event. And then there were rumors going around at the time that Mark Waid was going to write the entire tie-in, making it one massive cohesive event written by one guy, which I would offer my sincerest condolences on that. Luckily that wasn't the case, and he wouldn't burn himself out entirely from that. But yeah, this was a fabulous story. I certainly loved every minute of it. I like how they're introducing all these characters who haven't been used in a long time, and have been developing new relationships with the old characters who are underutilized, and showcasing their promise and potential. And then we ended with a secret traitor in the group. There's also a prelude to Batman Hush 2, which is going to be written by Jeff Loeb, drawn by Jim Leese, colored by Scott Williams and Alex Sinclair, which is the official sequel to the Hush book from over 2 decades ago. My God, we're old. But yeah, definitely one of my favorite books I picked up, and I was certainly looking forward to it. And it did not disappoint. I have issue 2, I'll get to that when I can. But let's move on from that. In this routinely crazed world, I got the noir edition of Absolute Wonder Woman, which was a fantastic story. I enjoyed it for what it was. It's taking place in the Absolute Universe following the death of Darkseid, and it's revealed to be the Elseworld that was established. But yeah, it was certainly a thing going on when Darkseid died and decided to create his own universe. But yeah, and when I was buying this, they didn't have the regular edition of Absolute Wonder Woman. And I loved how they established this mythology is now Cersei as the mother of Wonder Woman in this continuity, and not Hippolyta. And oh god, I certainly loved it. I certainly loved it. And yeah, it was a pretty good issue. Pretty good start. It's one of the top selling comics of the year. We got Absolute Wonder Woman number 2, which is her charging into battle against a army of demons, which was awesome. And I gotta mention this, her Buster Sword she has. I'm a fan of Final Fantasy VII. Let's be real, anyone with a Buster Sword, especially Wonder Woman, is awesome. Which kind of makes me kind of wish Donna Troy had it, just to make her stand out when Wonder Woman was having the sword for a while, the sword and shield. And I was like, and then I started thinking when I saw this is, hey, it would probably make sense if Donna Troy had a Buster Sword. That'd be pretty damn awesome. And yes, I found a way to make this about Donna Troy and not about Wonder Woman. And then when the Absolute Universe was starting, why I have not talked about Batman is because he's everywhere. Absolute Superman. Honestly, this was my favorite of the 3 Absolute Trinity in this universe, because it's like the second was Absolute Wonder Woman, the third is Absolute Batman, because I figured it was going to be an opposite take on Batman, but having one of his parents alive, it was like, oh god, this is Ultimate Spider-Man number 1 all over again from Hickman, except that that was more surprising because it's like the best way to describe Ultimate Spider-Man being all these positive things that we kind of wish happened in the main continuity is because we've been so miserable with Spider-Man in the last few years in the main universe that just having this happy Spider-Man is such a welcome refresh. But yeah, Absolute Superman. Basically, his parents are not the scientists and revered leaders that they would become known for in the main continuity. Instead, they are basically workers. And they had spoken out about the environmental use over exploitation of the environment of Krypton, which obviously we all know where that's going to go. And Kal-El in this universe is a little bit older when he left Krypton instead of the young baby that he was known for. So this one is much more aware of everything and helps the working class essentially. And there's also a fight against artificial intelligence, which props. This is written by Jason Aaron and drawn by Rafa Sandova. And my god, the colors especially, I can't pronounce his name, but they are damn good. This is the best looking book I've gotten from the Absolute Universe, and I'm looking forward to what we get. And I loved how they revealed the Kents are no longer around, probably, that their property's been taken by Lazarus Incorporated. But Lois Lane now is fighting against the AI, and Brainiac is apparently probably an AI computer, but humanity created it instead of it being a Kryptonian remnant. If that is the case, that's going to be interesting. But these 2 issues were fantastic. I loved every minute of it. But yeah, and I'm curious to know, are they going to go all in, metaphorically speaking, with Kal-El's parents surviving somehow, but probably being separated from them? Like Superman loses contact with his parents during their escape from Krypton as it's getting destroyed, and as they're escaping, they get separated. Probably. That'd be an interesting angle to go with. But it's certainly a topic of discussion as we read more of the Absolute Universe. But yeah, it's certainly a thing that is worthy of talking about. Superwoman special. So after the events of Absolute Power, Lois Lane got the powers. Spoilers: she got the powers of General Zod, and she's become Superwoman in this new run by Joshua Williamson with the Superman book. And this is a special delving into her everyday activities now that she has the powers of Superman, but via General Zod. And General Zod is not happy that he's lost his powers and will probably try and get them back. So enjoy this run with Lois Lane as Superwoman while you can. It's probably going to end tragically. Not really. They're not going to kill Lois Lane off. They tried before and that ended badly. And then Flashpoint happened. And then, yeah, Flashpoint, and that was going to be the last time we would see Lois Lane and Superman being an actual couple. And if Dan DiDio had his way, that would have been the last time entirely for good. You see my issue with Danny Boy? Oh, man. But as that's been going on, we also got the okay, I'm going to be honest, I did not like this comic, TVA, Time Variance Authority. Like, I only bought this because of the cover art, because it's Pepe Larraz, like, worship him as you must, because he is damn awesome at what he does. But, yeah, I tried to get into this, but it just wasn't working for me, because it's basically an MCU tie-in. Well, actually, it being an MCU tie-in. It has all the characters from the TVA. They've even mentioned the Loki that's currently gone, and I'm trying to wonder if this is part of the MCU or if it's part of the Marvel continuity comics, because everything about this screams that it's a tie-in to the Loki show that takes place after this. And yeah, this wasn't my cup of tea on this run. Probably not going to get to check out the other issues, but it was a good attempt. Plus, the covers aren't being drawn by Pepe Larraz, so that's out of the question. Next is Laura Kinney Wolverine. Laura Kinney Wolverine, also formerly known as X-23, but she's gone by the Wolverine for some years now, and they once again had to endorse her by the original Wolverine, Logan, because damn, that's awesome. That was an awesome moment. Like they go ahead and say she's X-23 and she's like Wolverine, and then she points out that she is Wolverine, and then Wolverine the OG gives his blessing by saying, "You tell him, kiddo." That was an awesome moment in Hickman's X-Men run. But yeah, she's currently teamed up with NYX, which is consisting of Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan, and one of the Stepford Cocoons from Emma Frost's Clone Daughters. Clones all around. That's the Marvel signature. If it's not making Parker's life a living hell, it's going ahead and having a bunch of clones, albeit very, very ethically questionable clones. But at least they step down their own and not become the weapon they were designed for. But yeah, Laura Kinney. Like I said a while back, I wasn't interested in covering the Fall from the Ashes run, but I'll give it credit. They have been addressing Krakoa's fall and the end of the nation, and they've certainly been teasing that it might come back down the road. Like, they keep having these setups in the Unlimited comics that Krakoa might be reformed as a new nation with a new island, but I don't know about that, if that's going to be the route they go. But I've certainly enjoyed some of these stories. Like, they're not as interesting to me, though. And they're currently doing the big prison breakout thing, and Xavier's going to be on the run soon next year. So, yeah, we'll catch up on what's going on with that. Now, here's an issue I've certainly been wanting to check out. Ultimate Universe #1, 1 year in. And I got the Stefano Cassiel variant, which is featuring featuring the Makers Council. It's a phenomenal one-shot, and certainly tells us what's going on in the Ultimate Universe, especially with our residential Nick Fury, who is not played by Samuel L. Jackson, and instead played by the OG Nick Fury. And here's the thing. I initially thought, since they retired the OG Nick Fury from the main Marvel Universe by not having him killed off, instead they're letting him go around the multiverse and do some stuff. But, like, with the opportunity that he could come back or be in other multiverse stories, if they ever decide to revisit him. And I definitely thought at first when they revealed that Nick Fury was going to be in this universe, I was like, is this the original Nick Fury? And there's another one that's currently been forced to work for the maker. But no, they didn't do that route. Instead, this Nick Fury is not a loyal subservient member of the council or the maker's pawn. He has become disillusioned. He wants redemption. And it turns out that this has actually been repetitively done more and more and more, and he is not aware that he's been doing this over and over again. We even get Howard the Duck cameo. Yeah, I was surprised by that. They even killed off the entire Inhuman species again. Oh man, the Inhumans have just not been winning since those days. Since the failure of that TV show, and instead of ignoring that and just making quality stories with the comics, they just were like, oh, let's just kill the whole species off, or most of them off. Oh man, but yeah, I did love the dynamic of the council. We haven't seen Colossus, Illyana Rasputin, or Omega Red in a while. Turns out they've been doing their own big project with Wolverine becoming the Winter Soldier in this universe, which is freaking awesome. And yeah, and I'm surprised by how the line of the Ultimate books have been kind of restrained on showcasing the Maker, like, doing something in the dome. I was expecting him to show up a little bit in this, like tease what he's doing inside the dome or something if anything's going on, but nope. Instead, we just wait another year, and all hell's about to break loose when the Maker comes out after 10,000 years. Oh man. Yeah, but this was a very haunting story. It's one of my favorites of this year, and it's pretty f***ed up. So, as that's been going on, we also have another Ultimate story that's been phenomenal. The Ultimate Spider-Man by Jonathan Hickman and Marcio Checchetto, and colored by Wilson. This is a Christmas special, so yeah, this is something I didn't know I needed until I literally heard the announcement. We are so f***ed on this whole subject, but yeah, seeing this and Parker and the Parker family just celebrating Christmas, and then the drama at the end happens, was a pretty phenomenal thing to see. But the thing I did like most is that they were like, okay, look, we shocked everyone. We're bringing back Ben Parker, revealing he's alive and Aunt May's dead from the attack from the council. But they instead decide, hey, let's top our our list of surprises and bring back MJ's mother, who is now divorced and all that. And she's not dead in the like she was in the main timeline. And let's bring in her sister, because we need to round up the surprises more, and then tease that MJ's mother might be interested in Ben Parker. Yeah, that's probably going to be an awkward conversation. But yeah, this was a pretty fun story. Christmas all around, no big superheroics, nothing, just pure Christmas fun. And then we get the ending where it's revealed Kraven the Hunter has captured the real Peter Parker and the Green Goblin and have them unmasked. And it turns out the one that we saw that was hanging out with them all Christmas party was Venom. Or at least something that's related to the Venom symbiote. But, yeah, I'm pretty sure MJ and Gwen are going to be royally pissed and do something about this. We'll see. But I hope no one dies. Because, by God, I'm kind of over the whole we need to make Parker miserable. And then we get one of my favorite books of the Fall from the Ashes run, written both with quality and with beautiful artwork. Eve Ewing's Exceptional X-Men #3. This focusing on Kitty Pryde, Emma Frost, and her team, and the team, the Exceptional X-Men. It's a pretty beautiful, good quality artwork story with all this, and focusing more on Kitty Pryde and how they finally decide to just fully on embrace her, the fact that she's bisexual. Now, can we get her and Illyana Rasputin back to hanging out again and probably becoming a couple? I don't know if they do that. I'm hoping. I talked to Tom at Baltimore Comic-Con. That was fun. He did tease they'll probably see each other again down the road in this era. But as for them becoming a couple, he knows that fans have been wanting it for a long time now, since since at least the 90s, and it's certainly, and I wouldn't be surprised if it is on the cards, but I would definitely be interested in seeing what goes on with this story. But yeah. Yeah, Katie is not happy being a part of an X-Men team again after the stuff she did in the Fall of X and the war against Orcus. As she's certainly been trying to get away from that, and it certainly does not work out so well in her favor. I'll get to that when I get to another issue. Then we get the first batch of the bunch of titles we need for our spin-offs in the X-Men era of From the Ashes. Psylocke #1. Oh man, when I heard this was announced, I tried to get the art journal variant, failed miserably, and I will have to regret that for the rest of my days. Not really, I'll probably just download the artwork off the internet because it's a quality art. But, yeah, and this is not Betsy Braddock Psylocke. Psylocke and her have been, the original Psylocke, I can't pronounce her name, and Betsy Braddock have been separated for close to a decade now, and by God, that was so, I'm pretty sure it would have been uncomfortable to talk about more if they were still the whole two minds in one body, and Betsy Braddock basically taking it for the real most part. Yeah, this was a good story. They still keep her and John Greycrow together, and I'm gonna be real. When I heard this was first announced, I actually said I kind of would want it if Zeb Wells took the character again. And if I was a proper editor, this would be the moment I would have a bunch of guns pointed at me for saying that, considering what he did to Spider-Man in his world. And I would have just said, get me out. Because he did write a great Psylocke story in the Hellions run, which even those who hated Krakoa loved the Hellions run that Zeb Wells cooked during the Dawn of X and Reign of X eras. And that's saying a lot when you get people who hate a specific phase of the X-Men, but then they say, I hate everything that the X-Men are doing with this Krakoa nonsense, but I do love this book. And then he got signed to Spider-Man and that destroyed his reputation for many, even though I personally blame Nick Lowe for all that instead of him, because here's the thing. This is the book that Hickman wished he wanted to write with Amazing Spider-Man, but it's a book that he couldn't write because it would be so infighting with that. There would be so much infighting with him, the editorial staff, and he has already had enough of that with the X-Men, where when he was kicked off the X-Men team because they loved Krakoa so much and was selling like dynamite, was selling like hotcakes and all that, but it's just like, it's one of those days. Certainly a fight with that, but yeah, Psylocke is going on this big adventure and she murders somebody and then goes through another traumatic period of her life. But yeah, the artwork is actually pretty damn good. I did love the artwork. It's possibly the highlight of this, especially with issue 2 that came out. In fact, here's issue 2. I got this variant where she's reading a comic book. She's reading Spider-Boy. God have mercy on her soul, or whatever she believes in. But yeah, and John Greycrow's arm has been stolen, and not his robotic arm, his human arm, so bring on the misery at the end of this issue. So he's been kidnapped. Just another life of being a mutant these days, isn't it? They're constantly targeted and treated like monsters. Now we got Justice League Unlimited #2, which is also written by written by Mark Waid. And this continues off the story from the first issue with the whole hatchlings they find. And it turns out Martian Manhunter has lost a part of his powers from the events of Absolute Power. And it turns out Darkseid's impactful death has reverberated across time and space and is causing things to either wake up, be bold enough to start fighting, or resistance. And yeah, so Darkseid's loyal soldiers left, and now they're infighting. And there's even a reveal that there was actually a parademon that was actually intelligent and gave birth to a bunch of creatures that had been awakened by Darkseid's death. And then he learns Darkseid's dead, and then that leads to a whole mess. And then Martian Manhunter is almost given into his anger, and it's revealed that that his powers have been affected. And Superman is certainly concerned about this. Oh, and there's also this funny moment between Wonder Woman and Mary Marvel when they realize they're thinking the same thing about lifting the hatchling into the eggs into space. But yeah, this went crazy. This went a little ballistic. Oh man, it's a fun story, and I loved how they didn't take too much focus on the whole fiasco with the traitor in the group. Certainly loved that. I certainly enjoyed how they're trying to not be as blatant with the whole story of the traitor, who is a guy who handles communication devices, which was an awesome moment to see. To see these characters who aren't really like all that, but can be beneficial even in the worst of situations. Next up is Wonder Woman 14. Once again written by Tom King with art by Daniel St. Pierre. And this is the birth of Trinity. Now, you can have your opinion on what's been going on with the books, with Tom King's writing. I certainly understand that. But yeah, it's certainly a thing to get into for the most part. I feel like his strengths are with I think the best thing he does is when he's working in restraint and when he has to tell a complete story in like 12 issues or less. When he's allowed to be given an ongoing and it can last for as many issues as possible, if they're still selling so well, then it starts to, like, he gets those great moments, but then it's like fleshed out with all this filler or this bad writing stuff that we get. And there was certainly stuff he had in his Batman book that was phenomenal, and if it had done the marriage, I think people would have forgiven everything that happened after. But yeah, we witnessed the death of Steve Trevor and the birth of who would become Trinity, Elizabeth Marston Prince. And yeah, some people were like wondering how Diana's been out of character in this book, and well, that's obviously understandable given Tom King's writing this. But I don't think she's totally out of character, because she is one of the more emotionally resonant characters of the entire DC universe. She always cares about everybody, even her enemies. So the idea that she's this psychologically busted because of the death of someone she's loved for a long time, the first person she ever met on the island, and helped her get her rounds on Man's World, I can understand why she would act the way she did in certain moments in this book, because oh god, she doesn't do much. She grieves, but I think it's the writing that's also affecting her character a bit. Like there are certain things she does in this book that I get, but there's also moments I'm thinking to myself, wait, so these people that are finding this thread said they found it in a very special place, but they never explained what that special place was. Like, it just seemed like going back and forth. Donna Troy showed up in this, so awesome. Donna Troy's awesome. Please praise her. And the hits with the Wonder Woman books keep coming, because we get the Fury arc, which is the beginning of the end of the Sovereign. Wonder Woman has her child, and she's pissed. And Cassie Sandsmark has destroyed the U.S. military in certain areas, so I'm pretty sure that's going to be a political backlash. And in this, we get artwork by Bruno Redondo. I'm pretty sure I butchered that. I am terribly sorry, Bruno. Detective Chip is the main focus on this story in a Wonder Woman book. And yeah, they're exposing the truth of the Sovereign. Yeah. Also in this book, we get the Steve Trevor in the afterlife and what's going on with him and how he misses Diana. How it's not really it's not going to be complete without seeing Diana again. But yeah, yeah, this one especially involves the origin of the Sovereign and all that, and Sovereign is royally pissed, dealing with the exposure of his identities and operations, which you would think have a much more bigger impact with the DC universe, especially to realize that America in the main DC universe is built on a huge lie, more so in government. that is under the rule of a monarchy this whole time, a secret cabal. We kind of haven't gotten any reverberations from that, but I don't know. I'm not the writer or the editors. But, yeah. Then we get Challenges of the Unknown. This was a story I was particularly interested in seeing, but then I was like, I probably would have been more interested in this if this didn't have the Trinity involved. Because it was like, why couldn't the Challengers of the Unknown group just do it without the Trinity's involvement? Like, I know they're investigating Darkseid's death, but that could have easily been put in another book. Or just keep the storyline intact for the for the Justice League Unlimited book. It's just something that bugged me. And then they start teasing Darkseid's influences spreading in subtle ways, and showing that it's becoming corrupting across, like his essence is still around and is corrupting the DC universe as Darkseid builds his legion in the Absolute universe. But the artwork's pretty good. I certainly loved it, but it's just something that just bugged me to have the Trinity involved in this story when they're already stretched thin a lot in areas. But I don't know what the process was on that, but I hope they do find a way to justify it outside of just having Darkseid teases in this book. And yeah, it's currently a wild ride. We're still not done. We're like at the halfway mark of this. Oh man, I am so screwed. So now we get to this one, Exceptional X-Men number 4. And this is where Iceman comes in. Yeah, Iceman, you could be my wingman and all that. Yeah, Kitty Pryde is still angry. And then her past gets exposed at the end of the issue about her time as Shadowcat, being a psychotic murderer because of her rage and her anger kindly boiling over. She verbalizes what she went through, and the 3 of the New Mutants here are shocked to learn that ZOMG, Kitty Pryde is killed. And I'm just like, did everyone just forget what the hell Orcus did? Like, clearly not, but like, these 3 shouldn't be shocked what happened, I think. But like, they do know Emma Frost is killed. She's lobotomized people. She killed a horse and then blamed it on the owners. And then somehow convinced the owner that she killed her own horse. And that took decades of fixing. And they finally fixed up their issues and squashed their beef in Fall of the House of X. Yeah, that was certainly a thing that happened in back then when she was, when Emma Frost was, how do I say this delicately? Well, she was in her Snow White phase. Let's just go with that. Or just use every lingo that Deadpool 3 uses about how they can't use a certain drug. But, yeah, it was certainly something. So, Absolute Batman number 3. I must tell you that Absolute Batman took Ultimate Spider-Man's rightful place as the number 1 best-selling comic book of the year. So, bravo to DC at least. They beat Absolute Ultimate Spider-Man. But, yeah. I find this big, bulky Batman showing up in this book, like in Absolute Batman number 2. Like, he's formed an alliance with this villainous Alfred Pennyworth instead of him being a butler. So, pretty awesome. But this big, bulky Absolute Batman we get, who's in his 20s only, is like... It reminds me a bit of, you know, the big barrel-chested Captain America from Rob Liefeld's promotion for the upcoming then new universe they were doing, the Heroes Reborn timeline. But like, I don't know how they're making this work. I'm honestly kind of surprised how they're making this work somehow. But I'm curious to know, when eventually the Absolute Universe crosses with the main DC Universe and their no doubt comic event that's going to bring back Darkseid and all the shenanigans that fall from that, I'm just going to go like, oh god, I wonder how main Batman's going to react seeing this big bulky Batman, especially learning that his mother's still alive in this universe. Oh man, that's just insane to think about. And we get one of my favorite comics we got that came out this month. One of my favorites, New Gods by Ram B. And this was the one I was reading the most this month. Got the Pete Ward's variant cover because it's awesome and mythological. And it has a mythology angle to it. But yeah, this focuses directly on the death of Darkseid and the birth of a new god. And Orion is revealing that his face is becoming more and more like Darkseid despite his handsome visage he has. Scot-free, and Big Barda, mostly scot-free because Big Barda is currently unconscious because of how she's overworked from being from being a mother, birds of prey, and having just given birth to becoming a said mother because they have a kid now. Congrats to Mr. Miracle and Big Barda. But Orion has been tasked with a mission. He's told to kill a baby. They even acknowledge that Highfire might have lost his mind following Darkseid's death, so I'm pretty sure that should be a cause for concern. Oh man, Orion even admits that I will follow Highfire's every whim, but I can circumvent this somehow by giving a delay to myself and asking someone to try and stop me. And then we get the new god showing up, having this kid who has these insane powers after ironically being attacked by soldiers in some jungle area. This got dark at the last portion of this comic, and Highfather has certainly lost his mind following Darkseid's death, it seems, but beggars can't be choosers. Absolute Wonder Woman number 3. Turns out Wonder Woman lost her arm. Spoiler alert, she lost her real arm, and this is a magical duplicate. So I'm pretty sure hijinks ensued from that. She had to get Steve Trevor back to Man's World, and well, it's led to this thing, and she loses her arm in battle. And now she has her prosthetic arm, and that could be beneficial, but I'm pretty sure she's going to want her magical arm back. Oh, man. Then we get Tom King's book, Black Canary Best of the Best, a 6-issue miniseries that's in continuity in the main DC universe. So he's writing Black Canary. Honestly, I kind of wish Black Canary was getting a solo book after all this time. But, this is supposed to be a bare-knuckle fisting of... Damn it. This is supposed to be her bare-knuckle in combat, basically in a wrestling ring. It's basically her going through 6 rounds of fighting, like a gauntlet match in WWE or AEW, and she has to survive every single one of them. And this is why it's 6 issues instead of 12 issues, because I'm pretty sure making it 6 issues was already pushing it, just being a pure fighting scene. But it's drawn by Ryan Sook, so that's pretty awesome. I rarely see him doing books these days, writing and drawing interiors these days, but I'm glad to see that. We also got Black Canary Round 2, essentially, and whatnot. Pretty good brawl, and got this variant cover that looked awesome. Black Canary's awesome. Bow before her, Green Arrow. Then we get Aliens vs. Avengers number 2. The first issue was awesome. And I got the Mark Brooks Venom cover, so Mark Brooks Venom versus the Xenomorph cover, and yeah, and then it turns out that the symbiote can actually defeat the Xenomorphs currently, can suppress their darker urges, but they're trying to get off planet, following this war against the Xenomorphs that have spread across the universe, and Assad Ribrick, some people still complain about how he draws the female characters. I get it, but it's like, especially what we got from the Eternals book, where he drew Captain Marvel's face to be very not Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers. But yeah, but I got this Thor variant cover, which was awesome. I love his awesome covers. Him battling the Xenomorphs. Oh man, this was an event I was looking forward to. Sadly, it's been hit by delays because I don't know what's going on with Hickman, and the writing team and the rest of his team. Like, there's been like several books he's had that have been delayed due to either production issues or just various big constraints, or just he's trying to cram as much content he can in small issues while he works on Ultimate Spider-Man and prepares for Imperial, which is a new comic book event that just got announced that's going to come out next year. We'll learn more details as they go on. Maybe I'll shout it out on Neo Reality Collective podcasting when I talk about that, when I get back into the regular scheduled news, but that's near there. And then we got these last three before the big event. We got Mystique, number 1 through 3. We got the regular. This is drawn by Deacon. I'm pretty sure I failed to get his name right. But, yeah. I got the first 2 issues of regular covers, and I love this 3rd issue cover. Variant cover I got. Like, gorgeous artwork, drawn by the same guy who drew the Alien vs. Avengers variant cover I just showed. Mystique's on a mission. Destiny's probably dead, and well, not really. I'd be surprised if they just killed her off in the beginning of this new era, especially after they worked so hard to get her back in the Hickman run. But I do love this variant cover of her basically dressed up as Emma Frost and transitioning back into her form of Mystique that we all know and both love and hate. But yeah, it's pretty awesome. And Nick Fury's on the run, is on the course of chasing her down, aka Nick Fury Jr. Whole episode on that. Basically, they wanted to synergize with the MCU, so they just established that there's a Samuel L. Jackson Nick Fury that is the illegitimate son of Nick Fury, the OG we remember, and they replaced him as the new Nick Fury, essentially, in the most obvious MCU synergy attack yet. And then the X-Men Fall of X event happened, and then they were trying to synergize with the MCU TV show, with the X-Men TV show, X-Men 97, to make sure we get some familiarity to a more comfortable status quo. But we get to the big main event. This was the biggest book I got for $150 that I managed to spend my entire gift card I got. The out-of-print DC vs. Marvel book, Omnibus. And I got the Jim Lee variant. And this book collects, let's see. It doesn't collect the amalgamation books. That's a separate omnibus. And the verses proper. We got Spider-Man and Superman. We got the Marvel Treasury Edition, DC Special Series 27. Marvel and DC present featuring the Uncanny X-Men and New Teen Titans. Batman and Punisher, Lake of Fire, number 1. Punisher and Batman, Deadly Nights. Darkseid vs. Galactus, The Hunger. Spider-Man and Batman, number 1. Green Lantern, Silver Surfer, Unholy Alliances. Silver Surfer and Superman. Batman, Captain America. Daredevil and Batman. Batman and Spider-Man. Superman, Fantastic Four. The Incredible Hulk vs. Superman, number 1. Batman, Daredevil, King of New York. And this also contains the Jim Lee cover, which is absolutely freaking gorgeous, and it's a beautiful detailed drawing. Jim Lee at his best. Oh man, but I was curious about one thing though. Initially, when this was first announced, people initially assumed Avengers and JLA would be added. Sadly, it's not, and it's not even in the Amalgamation Age book. Disappointing on that. I would certainly love it if they brought it back as a big deluxe edition, or just a big absolute format, or Treasury edition, as Marvel would probably want it. And with Dave DiDio gone, because it was confirmed by DiDio himself that he's the reason why we still have not gotten another DC Marvel crossover since JLA Avengers, or Avengers JLA. Because he doesn't see the idea of beneficial of having comic book characters crossing over, because something, I'm a petty, sad man. But, yeah. And sadly, this was published under DC, which means we do not get a digital omnibus from Marvel's side, because Marvel nowadays digitally uploads the omnibuses of their books on Comixology, which was awesome. And since DC's publishing this and not Marvel, that means there's no there's no DC versus Marvel Omnibus Digital Edition. So that sucked. But, yeah. Pretty wild way to end things off. There is a lot of books I got, and oh man, there's just so many here that I collected this month alone, and this was just the last 2 weeks of the year. But yeah, I'm looking forward to next year, and I'm looking forward to kickstarting NRE 10 with more content available coming your way non-stop. Hopefully nothing goes wrong. Probably some things will go wrong. I got sick yesterday, which is why I had to delay any videos I had planned for that production. But yeah, it's been a wild ride, and I want to end this year on a high note. So ending it with a concept pitch of the show certainly on the cards. We'll see you all again next time, everybody. If this does well, or if I get enough feedback on this from other people I showcase this to, this is probably going to become a new ongoing series. If it does, I expect also the comic book reviews to be part of part of the show now. But we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But the fact that I have not talked about a review in a whole year is amazing. But we'll see y'all again next year. I hope you kickstart this NRE 10 with your favorite contents and comments and descriptions and whatnot below. I know I butchered that. I am terribly sorry. Also, I got these rings. It's been a wild ride, and I thank every last one of you for sticking with me through the good and bad. I'll see y'all again next time. Take care of yourselves and each other, and I'll see y'all again next year. Let's effing go.